A very good evening and welcome to all of you watching us today on yet another edition of The Spotlight, bringing to you a story that ignites change. Now today we have a very special guest joining us, someone who is making waves in the digital world of marketing. So we have Roshintha Perera, the founder and CEO of Rope Digital. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so starting things off, you started getting into the field at a very young age, if I'm not mistaken, 18.
Yes, 18. 18
So
was the age.
18 was the age. So did you know at that time, looking into the future, that digital marketing would be a thing?
I honestly didn't even know that digital marketing was a thing when I started. In the sense, I started off with photography, right?
Right.
Mainly photography. And that I would say a little bit before 18. And when I turned 18, I got the opportunity to work at a really good place that's very well known in Sri Lanka as a content coordinator, basically. And I also got to do what I liked, which was photography as well. So I think it kicked off from there, everything related to digital marketing. So yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the work that you do at Rope as a CEO and the founder. What do you all really target? What do you all achieve? What do you all work on?
So right now, we're mainly working on digital marketing as one arm, and then we have another arm for tech, which has everything, like web development, software development, product development, and anything related to artificial intelligence as well. So we're moving into that side of things a lot more this year. That's what we're focusing on. But what we've been running on for the past 3 years is basically digital marketing as a whole. So when you say digital marketing, there's SEO, SEM, social media marketing, content creation, paid advertising on all social platforms, and so on and so forth. So whenever these clients have any sort of requirement, we try our best to find ways around it. I'm not someone who says no to anything usually, so always will find a way. Yeah.
So you said you were in this for the past 3 years or so. So you
Correct.
got caught to the COVID wave,
Yep.
to the crisis, everything.
Everything.
Right.
Everything.
So how did you deal with that?
So it was a little bit of a weird story actually. I started off when I turned 18, while I was also doing photography. Started off by working at a cafe for 2 days.
2 days.
Just 2 days.
Right.
Because I wanted to earn a little bit of extra cash. At that time, my parents are, perfect. They always supported me in everything. But I also wanted that little bit of independence that I could get in terms of finances, right? So I started working at this cafe, where I worked for 2 days, and then I got a call from someone I knew at this other corporation. I mean, it's okay if I say that.
Yes, that's fine. Completely fine.
Yeah, so I got a call from someone I knew who was working at Dialogue, in
Right.
the media arm of Dialogue, which is the papare.com. And I had to tell the cafe owner that I'm quitting.
2 days later.
2 days later, yeah. She was not so happy.
I can imagine.
I quit and I joined that company. I joined Dialogue. I worked there for 6 months. So during those 6 months was when COVID started. I started off in Jan of 2020, and then I think COVID started in March?
Yeah.
Early March, right? So 4 of those months I would say I was at home. I was working from home. And just as the restrictions were lifted in terms of when they let people out of the houses again, I started a small business where I was exporting spices. Not a lot of people know this because it's not, all across the internet. So I would source these spices from different grocery stores as well as a few vendors outside of Colombo.
And you sent these spices
to people abroad, correct.
People abroad.
So I would have a very small client base of buyers abroad, and I would supply these spices to them. I saw this as a good business opportunity because there was a very big margin that I could consider as profit when I was doing this business. And then after that I left Dialogue and I started working at another company, an import company, as a digital marketing executive. So I was the only person there for digital marketing. It was myself, my boss, and the other guy who ran projects, in terms of project management and everything else as well. So it was just the 3 of us. So there I was able to learn a lot of things about digital marketing. My boss was kind of my mentor, it still is.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much how it started. by that time, COVID was settling. So when I joined that company is when I started rope simultaneously as well. He was, my boss was rather my mentor. He pushed me towards starting it.
Now there is this huge issue of understanding a lot of terminology when it comes to digital marketing, as you were mentioning, SEOs, SEMs, lead generations.
Correct, yeah.
Now lead generations are not technically customers until they are converted into customers.
Exactly.
So just break us down, break it down for us in simple language. What do all these terms mean?
Right. So since you talked about lead generation, when you say lead generation, it basically means you get leads for your client, right? So say
you get the leads from
the internet.
From the internet.
Yeah, wherever, right? Wherever you want to advertise. So say you're my client.
Yeah.
You come to me and you're like, Roshintha, we need to find, and you want a car wash, for example, right? You need to find 500 customers by the end of next month that we can, use their information, contact information to target them later and push forward their services.
Right.
So then I would propose to you, these are a few things that we can do. These are a few advertising campaigns that we can run. And then we start the lead generation process. So we start running those campaigns. But the difference in running a normal campaign and running a lead generation campaign is basically you get people to fill in their contact information. So you get their lead. So one person's contact information is called a lead.
Right.
So you as a client can use their information later on and act on it. You can push forward marketing resources to them, what your company does, what kind of services your car wash gives them, for example. So that's what lead generation basically is. When you take SEO, it's search engine optimization, right?
Yeah.
So it basically means you optimize your website, which is the main source on the internet for most companies. You optimize your website in terms of search, keywords, you write your content well so that it matches the meaning of what you do as well as the technicalities around Google and how their updates work and all of that as well. SEM, search engine marketing, is advertising on Google instead of just organic growth. You pay money to Google to advertise on their platform, you pay money to search engines like Bing to advertise on their platform as well. So that's a bit about it.
I think that's a very basic concept, right? I think there's more to it.
Yes,
but
there's
these are
much
common
more to
terms that we sometimes see, and to people who are not actively involved in the field, it's a great opportunity to learn.
Yes, definitely.
Again, we are coming to another distinct, a lot of marketing roles that we see. There's content creation, influencer marketing, then there's also social media marketing executives, digital marketing. Sometimes are all these the same? I know it's not,
right.
But break through what these things mean in terms of job opportunities for people.
Sure. So I would take the simplest one, which is like an influencer role, right? Influencer marketer. That would mean if you as a person already have a very good grasp on content creation and you already have a good following on social media, on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or wherever, companies can approach you to be like, okay, you look good on the internet and you do good work. Why don't you come work with us? We pay you and you can advertise be the face of our company and you can advertise our products. So that's basically what an influencer marketer does, right?
Yeah.
When you take a content marketer or content creator or a content writer, I think everything would fall under the content creation role. It involves ideating things when you want to advertise on social media, ideating graphics, writing. You have to have good writing skills, right? So I think how you have good writing skills is if you have good common sense, right? So common sense is very much needed across all of these digital marketing roles. And if you take a digital marketing manager or a digital marketing executive, that would cover a lot of technical areas as well. Like that person would know how to advertise things on Google, how to advertise things on social media, how SEO works, the technicalities of SEO, not just how to write, but all of those things as well. And they can basically direct the people who work for them or, who their peers are. They can basically direct those people as to how they want the work done. And since they have a vast knowledge of digital marketing, that's what you call a digital marketing manager.
Right. Now, moving on into the next question that I have for you. We were talking about content writers and all of that.
Yes.
Now, artificial intelligence is also coming into play.
Correct.
How do you deal with the thing of wanting something human and also having striking the balance between things
Definitely.
where you need it on the spot?
Yeah, I think when artificial intelligence like really started booming last year, everybody thought that digital marketing as a whole and even tech, people thought people would lose their jobs as web developers, software engineers, because people thought that everybody would invent these softwares that would take over these people's roles, right? In the best example I can take here is a content writer.
Yeah.
Right now, I think on the 5th of March, Google rolled out a new update that was like, if your content is AI generated, we are not going to index your work. That means you're not going to show up on the internet. Therefore, it's a huge risk, right? Google can detect if your writing is AI written, so you can't just use ChatGPT. I can, if you write an article, or if someone writes an article and shows me, I can tell if it's ChatGPT generated or not.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many like that. So just like that, imagine how advanced Google is. So when, the world of marketing, it really works in favor of humans as well, not only artificial intelligence. So when you try to use AI for everything, obviously it's helpful in terms of ideation and things like that, but it can't do all of your work. That's what I believe. And I think a lot of people would expect a person like me to believe that AI is everything, but that's not what I think. I think you need the human aspect as well, because if not, it's going to be hard.
Now, there was this news that we also got that AI will be included into the curriculum of students starting from grade 8.
Right.
Do you think that is a good move?
Definitely. I mean, teaching children how AI systems work and training them on how, what AI automation is really good to give people an understanding about that. Because as
on
students,
what they're getting into.
Exactly. So, like for us, when we were in school, I left school in 2020, but before that, IT syllabus was just basically how we calculate binary codes and this and that, right?
Yeah.
1 + 1 is 0 and things like that.
Yeah.
But these are things that you will need in like your daily life going forward. So I think teaching children how you can use those things to your benefit is a really good move on the government's and everyone else's part.
Now, how can businesses effectively utilize social media platforms in terms of generating more revenue and income?
Right. So you first need to figure out who your target audience is, right? And before that, even actually, you need to figure out your voice. If you, as a business, don't understand what you do, first of all, then there's no way that you can communicate that to someone who is going to do that work for you and help you grow. So once you understand what you do as a business and kind of, write down processes, okay, this is how it's going to work, so on and so forth, then you can communicate that to someone, no? Once you communicate that to someone, they will understand, okay, this is what we need to do. So someone who has a knowledge of marketing would come up with a lot of ideas as to what you can do for your business. And when it comes to actually, going forward with those ideas and putting those into play, it's a mix of a lot of things. Sometimes people don't even need to be paid to be doing paid advertising. They can just reach people through organic growth. For example, if you take a brand like a clothing brand, right? You obviously need to do a little bit of paid advertising to get the word out there. But clothes are a thing that everybody uses, right? And if you make it appealing enough to the public, they will buy from you. So there is also one thing. If your product is not good, no matter how much you try to market it, no matter how much money you spend on marketing it, no one is going to buy it.
That's true.
So, yeah.
So now in terms of ethical practices when it comes to business, what are some of the key things you take into consideration when doing business in general?
Well, ethics is a vast area of practice, right? You need to first of all be nice to the people you talk to. I work with a lot of international clients and mainly international clients, and they really respect us as Sri Lankans who work hard. For example, from Southeast Asia especially, and the word is out there more that people like us, people from these areas of these parts of the world, are really good at what we do. So it's up to us to really, obey that. Not obey. It's up to us to really keep up to that and really respect that, I would say, right? And I don't know if people have seen this, but I wrote an article. I was approached by the morning newspaper about 2-3 years ago to write an article about how marketing agencies were using this particular incident. It was about suitcases.
Okay.
How someone had murdered someone and put them in a suitcase.
Yeah.
And these companies who were selling suitcases were using that as an advantage and kind of, mocking that, right?
Yeah.
So I was asked to write about the ethics of, how you shouldn't do something like that. So it's important to just be a human, really, when you're doing business with anyone. If you always try to, chase behind money, and if you try to just chase behind being popular,
Yeah.
it doesn't always work out. So be human, It's the simplest way I can explain how you can be ethical.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a small business owner with limited resources, limited capital and limited income and all of that, how do you advise them to navigate through that?
Right. So in my case, if I may, I didn't start off with any sort of capital. I got my first client through a referral, and it was just I don't mind saying the number here. I was being paid 30,000 rupees per month. That's like around $100 a month, right? For this first client back in 2020, end of 2020. But what I did was I gave that client good work, and they started to trust me. Therefore, the money that I earned from that, I was able to use for the next, to do a little bit of expanding, right? Do a little bit of branding for my brand and kind of take it from there. So I don't think if you take 0% of revenue, right? You can still start a business. You can still start a business with, especially in today's day and age, digital business is very easy to start with not a lot of money. But what I would advise is that you grow slowly. If you try to grow fast, it doesn't always work out. Because when you grow slowly, you have the patience to understand what you're doing, right? And you have room to make mistakes. When you grow slowly, you also have the time to correct those mistakes and grow. So what you earn first, you put into the next thing, and it goes on like that.
So you started with one client.
Started with one client.
With $100 a month.
$100 a month.
30,000
Rupees a month.
rupees. Right.
Yeah.
After that, how did you navigate moving on?
So I made sure that I always was a good person to the client.
Yeah.
I, as a person, would put my face in front of the camera.
So how did you increase the amount of clients in your business?
Right. So the more good work that I did for clients, I would get referrals, right? People would refer me to other people, and within those communities they would talk. And these are obviously not in Sri Lanka but abroad. And I did a lot of reaching out on LinkedIn as well. So I have a LinkedIn account. Back then I would look for people who owned businesses who needed help in terms of marketing, right?
Did you reach out to like flourishing businesses, or was there
There was a threshold in my mind.
Okay.
So I knew where I need to stop.
Right.
In the sense, if a person looked like they were doing really well, I would do a little bit more research and see whether it made sense to spend my time approaching them. Yes, correct. But mostly what I would do is I would approach small to medium businesses, and it worked out pretty well. And then what I did was I stopped doing that after a while because I wanted to slowly grow. And I've started doing that again. And like I said, this year we're expanding into the tech arm as well a lot, in terms of product development, web development, and everything.
Is there any reason that you didn't tap into the Sri Lankan market?
There are a few clients that I've worked with in Sri Lanka, and so far it's been good. Like, for example, I worked with a company called Merck Stop. It's one of the biggest garages in Sri Lanka, car garages specialized in European vehicles. They're a very good client, right? Okay. But not all clients are like that. And I work with another software company. They provide different sorts of solutions to Oman and Canada. So I think when you work with you have to really pick and choose who you work with, especially when you're working in Sri Lanka, when you're trying to work with clients in Sri Lanka. If they don't suit the way you do business, then you shouldn't be working with them. Because I see it as that energy, if you put it somewhere else, you'll get a much more better advantage and better outcome from somewhere else. Sri Lankans, I'm a Sri Lankan. I'm so proud of the fact that I'm Sri Lankan. I love it here. But some people, unfortunately, like to take a lot of advantage of, it's sad, but
so
that's
you feel like the international community, they're much more appreciative.
Appreciative, and also they're very, they're understanding. They have been out there. They've been out in the world. They don't limit themselves to age, gender, or anything like that. Language, nothing like that. They just
it's on
like
the quality
you for
of your work.
Exactly. They like you for your work. As long as you do a good job, that's all they want.
Yeah. All right, welcome back to the show this Monday evening. Roshintha, we were talking all things tech, digital marketing, and all of that, and we're going to continue talking about it as well.
Definitely.
So now that you have a good amount of knowledge on this, what was the backing that you had in terms of education?
Right. So my parents were always very supportive of my work, but they were also like, you have to do your studies. So I did my London A-levels, which I don't really mind telling everyone now that I didn't really do well. I failed in one subject.
Okay.
And my parents were like, okay, what are you going to do? I did my research and I found CIM. So Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK. There are 3 levels in that. That constitutes to a postgraduate diploma in marketing, which is equivalent to a MBA, master's. So I did that. I took like a year and did that. And because I had that, I was able to apply for a master's, a Master of Business Administration, so MBA, at the University of West of England, Bristol. I just had my graduation last December, and pretty much, I guess my parents never thought I would do it, but I did, and they're really, really happy. They're lawyers, but they never pushed me to do anything of the sort in terms of law. They always let me do what I wanted to do.
Right now, how old are you now?
I'm 22.
All right. So as a very young CEO, right, and having a master's at this age, an MBA, is honestly praiseworthy, right?
Thank you.
And
Thank
also
you so
when
much.
you deal with clients, you said that you deal with a lot of international clients. Have you ever had to deal with doubt, criticism, saying, Roshintha, you're only 22, you don't have enough experience, you don't have enough knowledge to take this on. How would you have dealt with such a situation?
In my experience with dealing with these foreign clients, and I think I would say I'm lucky in this case, I really haven't ever been doubted for my age. If anything, there have been mishaps in work, as everyone would go through. And then we would obviously overcome those and make sure that they're not done again. And there have been ups and downs in business, but maybe I'm one of the lucky ones who hasn't been doubted for my age. So in that case, it was.
If someone, in the future, if someone is to ever tell you, you're too young.
Right. I would show them my work.
Right.
I would just show them this is what we have done. This is the work that we have done for the past few years. This is what we can do. It's up to them whether they want to choose me or not. I wouldn't really want a client who would work with me for my, depending on my age. So, yeah.
Now, when you start a business, how important is it to know your financials? Do you need a huge savings account to start up a business?
You don't need a huge savings account to start up a business. And I think even the financials question is really important, because it's not only important when doing a business, but even if you're just doing a job, it's very important to handle the money you earn well, right? It's always important to not spend more than what you earn. If you earn 45,000 rupees, you should at least save 5,000 or 6,000 rupees take risks when you're young if you can. Some people, I understand that they can't because of commitments. But I was in a position where my parents were always supportive. They were always there. So I didn't have any commitments. So I was very, volatile. I was very, my money was for me only.
Yeah.
So I could do whatever I wanted with it. I would invest in the stock market, even 10,000 rupees sometimes. And I would grow that to maybe 12 or 15,000. I didn't always have profits because I'm not an investor. So I would just, do that as a good practice of keeping money aside.
Yeah.
And then I would, have my unit trusts and things like that, just so that I would save every little bit of money that I earned. And the more I started to earn, the saving amount got bigger.
Yeah.
And the spending amount, the more you earn, you should never try to increase your spending just because you start to earn more. If you jump from 500,000 rupees to 1 million rupees, doesn't mean you have to also increase your spending by 50%.
Yeah.
Or 100%. You should always make sure that you save up.
Because a lot of the people in this between this age range deal with this issue of finances.
Correct.
Because your spending rate is,
and especially in a country like this, it's not easy.
Exactly. So it's important that we navigate through it sensibly.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So how would you advise, people in the younger generation, in our era, how would you advise them to navigate through their financials?
I would say start off by saving, first of all. Learn a little bit of investing in terms of stock market, whether it's the US stock market or the Sri Lankan stock market. I wouldn't give, this is not, I wouldn't say that this is 100% correct advice.
Yeah.
But this is what I did.
Yeah.
What I did was I started off by saving little bit by little bit, and then I started off by investing in different places. I also invested a little bit of money in crypto, where it turned out really well. I took out the money before the huge drop.
Yeah.
But
crypto, there is sometimes a little bit of
uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
It works like that in all types of markets. Even if you take a stock market, or especially the Sri Lankan stock market, is, I would say, not at all predictable to me.
Yeah.
Maybe someone else would say differently, but for me it's like that. But save as much as you can. If you have the power to invest, do it. Don't be scared. Just do it. Just go for it. Even if it's 10,000, 15,000 rupees at the start, just go for it.
A lot of people talk about the point of view from a client. But I want to ask you, many times before we head in to choose something, they always say, how do you choose the correct agency? How do you choose the correct production house? But I would ask you, how would you choose the right client?
When I first get on a call with a client, I obviously can see if that person is a good person or not. So far, I've not really turned down working with anyone, but I have turned down working with someone about 2 months in. So, when it gets hard to work with them, and when they try to use you, use your kindness and your ethics to their advantage, it gets hard to work with people like that.
Yeah.
So far, I work with clients in Canada, Australia, in the US, and even in the UK. I worked with a few. They've been really good, but there have been a few times where I have had to say, no. This is enough. You're not going to take advantage.
Let me add in something tricky for you to answer.
Okay.
What if you're in a position where you really need this client financially? How do you strike that?
I've been in positions like that, definitely. I mean,
you
it's not always been
You need the cash,
yeah,
but the client is also not the most easiest to work with.
Yeah. You just have to pull through. You just have to, buckle it up and be like, okay, I'm going to do this because I need the money.
Yeah.
And you just have to pull through it, because it's not always been an uphill climb. It never is for a business.
Yeah.
You have to, there are certain times where you have to, suit yourself up and be like, I have to do this, no matter what it takes. And what I've noticed is always good things come along. Like, it's never a bad drop for a long time. If you're patient enough, better things will always come along. That's 100%. Financially, in every way possible. If you're patient enough, good things always come.
Yeah. Also, another thing that we see is this use of credit cards. Let's talk a bit about that as well.
I love credit cards, not because of the fact that you get to spend money that you don't have. But because of, if you look at it in a different point of view, which I started to look at luckily in the beginning itself, you can use a credit card to your advantage a lot.
How come?
There are ways. For example, there are credit cards that give you 1% cash back, 5% cash back, lots of offers if you really do the research. They give you points when you're traveling, free lounge access to different lounges all over the world, and you basically can use a credit card to your advantage. It's not
what about
always
in terms of discipline.
In terms of discipline, you have to never spend money more than what you have. It's as simple as that. If you spend 3,000 rupees today on your card, make sure that you track it down and always track your expenses. I always track my expenses. Track your expenses and make sure that you pay that off at the end of the month. Don't ever spend more than what you have.
Because sometimes a lot of people get skeptical in using a credit card, but if you use it the right way.
If you use it the right way, you don't have to worry about anything. You can always pay it off if you don't go overboard.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't let banks take advantage of you. You should be able to take advantage of the bank. When it comes to loans and leases, that's a different story. That is also credit. But some people need those loans and leases, as a way to, in terms of getting through life if you want to. But again, you should only take those loans and leases and things like that, any form of credit from a bank, if you have the power to pay it back.
Pay it back.
Yeah.
If you don't, do not get into it.
Don't ever. Yeah.
So in terms of staying connected and networking with other entrepreneurs and businesses, how do you stay connected and close? Do you share company secrets? Do you share tips and all of that? Or is it very competitive?
It's not at all competitive, I would say. I mean,
because there are so many digital marketing agencies that we see.
Yeah.
So how do you strike that balance in staying in the market, staying in demand,
right?
Staying in demand, also staying helpful?
Yeah, I have a lot of good friends right in the market. I think since last year, my circle in terms of business has vastly grown because I did that on purpose. The people who are closest to me, one of my best friends is also another fellow businessman. His name is Nevan, and he and I share a lot of company secrets with each other. It really depends on who you want to tell those secrets to and how much you trust that person.
Again, it comes down to trust.
Again, it comes down to trust. Just like all business comes down to trust at the end of the day. So, in terms of being on top of the game, it's up to you completely. Really, you don't. If you try to look at it in a negative light and be like, this guy's getting more, I can't beat him. She's getting more, I can't beat her. That's never going to work. You just do your thing. Like I said,
stay in your lane.
You stay in your lane. I've always figured out that the clients that I have are very much different to some clients in the open market. So I don't try to mess with local clients a lot. That's why I go into the international market. I have partners in terms of other agencies overseas who bring me a lot of good projects and things like that. So very important to stay connected. Even overseas, I would say those are my friends as well. I have friends in places like Canada, Australia, UK, the US in terms of business. And as long as you're nice and truthful in terms of business, it works out really well.
Clear and concise communication is always key.
Important.
Now, you are also a young adult.
Yes.
Come under the category of youth.
Correct.
Managing a business, there is also social life, education. How do you balance all of that?
Education, of course.
You're done.
I'm done, but
any plans on completing? No? More.
You mean like a PhD?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
I think MBA is good enough for me. At the age of 21, I got it. No, so it was okay.
Yeah.
When I was doing that, I would say I'm good at time allocation. So I would separate the time that I work on business, separate the time I have for fun, and then I would do that last at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Finish off my assignments, and I got through it really well. In 1 year, completed it. In terms of other things like allocating time for fun and friends, family, I don't think I ever had a problem with that.
You didn't go through that phase, I can't do anything else, because there's a lot of business owners, they go through this phase where they're in this hustle mode, that they have no time literally for anything else.
you can hustle, but you can also have fun.
Yeah.
I'm a person who can't live without the fun part.
Okay.
I have to do that.
Yeah.
My parents are all always like that. My family is a very fun-oriented family. So I was brought up in a way that I would never just focus on work.
Okay.
My father's a very family-oriented man. He would finish his work and he would come home and spend time with us. So
that is sort of...
It's very important to me that I, have those connections, like family connections as well as friends. And since as of last year, I started traveling a lot. I have the power to do that now, so I have the ability to do that now, rather.
Yeah.
So I do that a lot, and that really, travel is one of my favorite things, traveling overseas. Before that, I would travel in Sri Lanka a lot and see nice places, photograph those places. Calms me down and, takes my mind off of work.
Yeah.
And yeah, my friends, we go out a lot. I go kart. I like to drive nice cars.
Of course.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
So traveling is also now a big part of your life.
Very big part. It was always a big part of my life.
Okay. So do you include, when you travel, is it more business-oriented trips that you do now? Or is it more towards you?
I would say half and half. I try to make as many connections as I go to these different places when I travel the world. But there'll be more travels in the future that I'm not sure if they'll be only business oriented, but or fun oriented.
Yeah.
But I try to keep a mix of both. I would say if I go for business, stay another week and go, have some fun and come back.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, early on, back in the day when you started, not so long ago, you have probably made mistakes. Obviously, right?
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing a few that you don't want anyone else to make?
Right. So when you're doing well and when people see, if you're a young person, if people see that you have potential, often people will try to approach you and be like, we can work on things together, right? When people say that, you shouldn't always just jump in and say yes at any point of time, because it's very risky. Sometimes they try to take the power away from you, as things move on. So always pick and choose not only your clients, but anyone who tries to interfere with your business itself. Always pick and choose those people correctly. And discipline yourself when it comes to like procrastination and things like that. I used to suffer from that a lot. But as things progressed, I made sure that I discipline myself enough to have a stable life in terms of like working out, fitness, things like that, but also make sure I allocate time correctly for the for academics and work as well. I think fitness is very important.
Definitely.
I lost touch. When you said you asked me, right, if I ever like neglected anything else.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't neglect my friends or my family, but I neglected my fitness for about 1 year. And that was very, very bad. You should never neglect that part of your life. You should always stay fit, healthy, and eat well, and also work out.
Yeah.
So I think going into like the second year of business, I said this is not gonna work. So I started disciplining myself, going to the gym, and I was a sportsperson back in the day. I played cricket, tennis, and threw the javelin. So I got back into tennis and going to the gym. And
got back into the groove.
Yes, exactly. So now it's a more whole. There's so much more that I need to do for myself, and so much more that I need to work on. But I would say I'm getting
I like
there.
the first pointer that you gave, because a lot of people, when you start off, they're in need for work. So they sometimes, as young people, we jump at the first opportunity that you see, which is sometimes not the smartest move to make.
Correct.
So that's important.
And also, it's hard to navigate your situation out of it. Like hard to navigate yourself out of situations like that.
Yeah.
So before making a decision like that, I would say think really hard, and don't trust people off the top of your head. And yeah.
All right, we are on the final lap of the spotlight this Monday evening. So much to talk about, but so little time. So let me squeeze in as many questions that I have for you. Over the past few years, the last few years, what are some of the key lessons that you have learned, and what sort of leadership style have you adapted in your work?
Well, to answer your first question, key things that I've learned, like I mentioned before, be very aware of what you're getting yourself into before you get yourself into something. Secondly, focus on your life as well. Your work and business is not everything. Some people would disagree with what I just said.
Yeah.
But I've surrounded myself also with people who believe in what I believe in. So make sure you choose your circle. Thirdly, make sure you choose your circle very carefully.
Like-minded people.
Like-minded people, even if they don't do the same things you do, even if they are not business people or tech people or whatever, make sure that they have the same qualities as you and they're nice people if you're a nice person, I assume.
Yeah.
And overall,
they share the same values and principles.
Values and principles, yeah. And people you can easily talk to, right? Have a good support system in terms of that. And I would say fitness, like I mentioned before, very important. If you're not fit, you're going to burn out and you're going to crash. And you don't want a CEO to crash, right? That's the last thing a client wants. That's the last thing your employees or the people who you work with want. So take care of yourself as well. Mental well-being, whatever suits you. If you want to play games, play games. If you want to travel, travel. I know business people who, take their stress away and relax by playing games. And they're very successful people. I know someone who flies an aircraft simulator in his free time.
Right.
And he runs a massive business in Colombo. So, but he's so aware of everything else he does. So it depends on what you like to do as a person.
As long as your way of releasing stress, that outlet is...
It calms you down.
Calms you down and it's done in the right way.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, there are other ways that people like to release their stress. but it's up to you at the end of the day. I like to do it by traveling in nice cars.
Definitely. Now, in terms of the digital marketing landscape, what are some of the key and essential skills that you think are needed for someone heading into the field?
I think to connect this with the previous question you asked me also, as a leader.
Yeah. Yes, you didn't say that.
Yeah, you'd. I think what's important is that you have to, again, just like you pick your clients, right? You have to also know who you're working with. So I like to surround myself with people that I have known from my past. I like to give them opportunities in the future.
Yeah.
So if I need someone, I would call someone I know first, instead of putting up a job post or a job interview or something. I'll call someone I know and be like, I have this opportunity or I have this project you can, do part-time or contract for.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it? And I would only call if I know that they work well. If not, I won't. So again, be aware and be conscious of what you're getting yourself into. So, and when in terms of skills that, as I see it, people have to really work on common sense. Yeah. That's something that maybe people might think that I don't have common sense sometimes, like my friends would say that.
No, that's true, because
common sense is very, very important as a skill, especially if you're a writer, if you're a creative thinker. If you don't have common sense, you can't think. It's as simple as that.
And now with the internet and tech and all of that sometimes come in, people lose the ability to make their own decisions on the go. So that's important that you know where you stand and to be able to make decisions on the go. And sometimes you have to think out of the box.
You have to think out of the box. And I would look for common sense a lot in people, whether they can connect the dots, right? Like you said, thinking out of the box is also important. So if this doesn't work, how do we fix it? Not according to the book, but is there another way? I like people who research a lot. I myself am not a big person who, looks at the real, important terms of thing. When I say that, I mean, in terms of research, right? I don't like to look at a lot of data or things like that. But when I look for people like that, I know what to look for. So
Right.
research skills are really, really important.
Now, what I just want to drop in a quick question. When you deal with a client, how do you ensure clear transparency in terms of accounts, finances, clear communication with whoever you work with?
Right. So in our case, obviously, as a digital marketing and tech agency, accounts are not really relevant unless we are handling their paid accounts.
Okay.
Paid ads accounts like Meta Ads Manager or Google Ads Manager or Bing Ads or something like that. So of course in those instances we would get them onto a meeting and they would come online with us and they would fill out the information while we are directing them to do so, and that's how obviously that is done, right? But in terms of like say we're building a product or software or a website that requires security as well. Say a paywall is there and we need to ensure that the utmost security is there for that paywall. Then we have people like cybersecurity engineers who would assist us, assist the developers in things like that as well. And when handling data, when it comes to AI companies and AI-driven technology, because AI is based on data, right? We sign contracts, we sign NDAs so that the client trusts us and we never go out of contract, go out of the NDA.
How do you deal with the legal issues of this? Have there, with NDAs and all of that, have there ever been instances where these have been broken and then you have to get legal aid coming in?
Luckily, so far,
But
no.
wait, your parents are lawyers, right? So you have
My
an
parents
edge
are
there.
lawyers, but they would be like, you got yourself into this, so find a
Yeah.
way out of it. They've always let me be independent.
Are there any rules and regulations, laws that govern digital marketing agencies in Sri Lanka? That
Yes.
even though you work for, foreign clients, the company is registered in Sri Lanka, right?
Yeah, the company is registered in Sri Lanka.
So, are there any laws that are governing the agency?
Basic business laws and the Companies Act,
Okay.
it will help you govern your agency. But again, when you're working with foreign clients overseas, especially if you're dealing with large accounts, there has to be very clear communication with your team and theirs, and even if it means bringing their legal team to talk you through things, it has to be written down. Everything should be written down on paper.
Right.
So yeah.
So my final question for you is, as a very, very young CEO, which is a very good thing, something to be very proud of, right?
Thank you.
What would you have to tell young entrepreneurs heading into the field?
I would say
Someone wanting to make that decision, someone wanting to start a business, someone wanting to have a startup, how would you talk to them?
don't ever be scared of starting, because that's the point where everyone backs out before you even start. Because once you start, you can always figure everything out. I think I mentioned before, we never say no to anything. We always will find, if a client has a requirement, we don't say no off the bat. We'll always try to find a way, and a good way, obviously not a sketchy way. But just don't be scared to start. Once you start, and you learn as you go.
Yeah.
Some people have this thing, and I used to, so I kind of still do. I think that I need to know everything, every precise detail before I get into it. But that's not the case. Unless it's like a legal contract you're signing or something. But before you start, don't think too much. You can always figure it out as long as you know what you want to do. And even if it means, slow growth, there'll be one point of time where you're like, I never expected this, and you're growing too fast that you can't handle it. So until that point comes, just be patient and work hard. You have to work not only hard, smart. When I say smart, I'm saying that because the rest of your life is also very important, not only your work. So working smart is important in the sense you have time for other things as well. So you allocate your time wisely and smartly, and you will get through anything that comes your way, basically.
All right. So that was my final question for you, and thank you for joining us on this week's
Thank you so
edition.
much for having me here.
The pleasure was mine. Pleasure was mine. So wishing you nothing but the absolute best.
You too. Thank you so much.
All right, so that brings us to the end of yet another edition of The Spotlight. Join me again next Monday, same time, same place. Until then, have a pleasant night.